Have you ever worked on a project and you just feel like you're subconsciously stealing from someone else's creation? Personally, I'll find myself scouring the internet, watching different YouTube videos, stumble across a Sam Kohler travel video, and immediately say to myself, I really want to shoot a travel video. And then halfway through the process of making said travel video, I realize I'm completely ripping off another film. So, how do you make original content? How do you create unique work in a platform that is so over-influenced? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my influence circle. This is the circle of influence, and I think this is a tool that you guys can start using more and more often to really elevate your originality, your original content, and this is something that I use all the time on so many different projects. I'm so stoked to share it with you. Essentially, the circle of influence is a circle of influential characters or people or events or things in your life that develop who you are. There is a saying or a known thing where it's like you are the makeup of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And for those of you who are kind of unfamiliar with the 5 people that you surround yourself with theory, here's how it kind of works. So let's say it's your girlfriend, your mom, your dad, co-worker Steve, and perhaps your old high school buddy. In between those groups of people, let's say you surround yourself with those people throughout a whole day or perhaps over the scale of a week. And I don't know if it goes into specifics of like time frames, but you can definitely go to the granular level of that. But essentially the nuts and bolts of this concept means those people are the ones who are sort of building your personality, who you are, your traits. So for example, your coworker Steve is a very toxic person and kind of complains all the time. That's gonna rub off onto you the same way that maybe your mother's love is gonna really rub off on how much you love other people. But another circle that I wanna focus on for today's video is talking about the circle of influence of content consumption and how that can change the way you create your own content online or within your videos or within your movies or whatever. And this sort of circle and this idea, the sum of 5, I think also kind of expands onto different levels as well. It's the influences that you had in your entire lifetime, it's the influence that you have currently, and I think even media and the content we consume is its own circle, which is the key one we're gonna talk about right now. Consuming some form of content plays in such a huge factor of our lives that I think it actually deserves its own circle of influence. And essentially, it is a circle that is compiled of a bunch of different influences that help create and manufacture the work that you develop. Sadly, it's almost impossible to create content that's original. There's a video about that right up there. But essentially, being unique on a platform is very, 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 very difficult, if not impossible, especially in an era of so much influence. So the way the creator circle of influence works is essentially it is a compilation of the 5 things that really influence the work that you've created. So for example, my work would be a division of, let's say, the work from Yes Theory, Denis Villeneuve, Sam Kohler, probably Peter McKinnon, and let's throw Christopher Nolan into the mix, which is a pretty big chunk of different filmmakers. But if you start to assemble all of those together, you kind of create the content that I create. And since I know those people who influence me and the work that influences me, I know what I can watch in order to get me inspired. Influence should equal inspiration, not carbon copying. So the reason why this is so valuable is once you know what's influencing you, you can hack it. You can change the percentages of what is actually giving you the most inspiration for the work that you're creating. For example, if I'm being over-influenced by the work the team Yes Theory makes in their content, and I feel like it's reflecting my work almost too much, I can stop consuming that amount of content and start implementing something else. Or for example, maybe I'm trying to avoid all of those different influences. I can do a complete clean slate, go cold turkey, and start consuming different content that's completely different. Think of it as sort of the contrasting color scheme of that content. Finding the exact opposites of those 5 influences can then all of a sudden make me open up to a brand new window. So what would be the opposite of, let's say, Denis Villeneuve? Well, maybe Michael Bay would fit within that realm. And then so maybe perhaps I'd start watching Michael Bay content for visual style, inspiration, and information. And the reason why this is so fun is because, yes, you can hack it. You can change the percentages, change those influences, and understand where those influences are coming from. And this also applies to creating a new project. Perhaps you're working on a brand new movie and you're trying to develop the visual style for that. Create that project's own circle of influence, the things that you think would be the most inspirational for that. Some people call it mood boards, style boards, vision boards, and develop those 5 things that you think would really build and be the makeup of that project. I recently just finished up a short film called Freelancer that I built its own circle of influence, so therefore when people were onboarded onto the project, they knew the styles I was referencing and knew the movies that were my inspirations by diving into the circle of influence of that project. So for example, I use movies like Blade Runner 2049, TV show like Black Mirror, and one of my favorite movies of all time, which is The Matrix. So between the 3 primary influences and some other secondary influences, that was sort of the onboarding process that I got my cast and crew to go over while starting to help me develop and create the universe known as Freelancer. And that movie will be coming out very, very soon. If it's out, there'll be a little box that pops up. So the circle of influence is something that you can reference as far as doing your content creation, but I would highly recommend exercising this on a daily basis. Personally, I've started to try and redefine and redevelop my circle of influence so that it is constantly elevating me to get to the next level, sort of to be a better person all in all. So what I've started doing was I've started to surround myself with people who hold different values to me on a daily basis. So for example, I have a mentorish type person as one. I have someone who inspires me and motivates me. I have someone else who is someone who I can help and I feel sort of good about helping that person. And then I have 2 people who are sort of equal at my level. And within all of those levels as well, they sort of give me joy and bring me happiness. Some even challenge me to make me elevate myself a little bit harder. So this is something you could play daily as well as play within the content that you're creating. And I think if you're able to modify and tweak this circle, it will help make so many things better within your life. And one of the biggest misconceptions of this concept of the circle of influence is this is a great spot to pause and thank our sponsor of the video, which is Premium Beat. Premium Beat is a royalty-free stock music website for all of your creative needs. It is also the host of all of the music that was in this video. So if you like the tracks that are currently playing or played beforehand, you can find all of those songs along with other professional and incredibly high-quality soundtracks on their website. If you hit a link in the description below, it'll guide you to their website. And trust me, I've been using Premium Beat for the last 4 years of my filmmaking career, and it has elevated my production quality so much. Let's get back into the video then. One of the biggest misconceptions of this concept of the circle of influence is the fact that you need to surround yourself with good people or good content. Sometimes having something to work for or work towards is really good for you. So personally, when it comes to my content, I will consume content that's maybe a little bit too independent or not as good. I like actually watching the work of creators who are sort of up and coming and getting into the world because I feel like they're throwing out a lot of really fresh content and ideas that could be improved upon. And that's why I'll consume that content. Not because I'm like, feel better about myself, but I think there's something really inspiring, if not more inspiring, watching up and coming creativity as opposed to creativity that's already sort of reached the top of the mountain and celebrating. And this also obviously applies to your own personal life and sort of the circle that you surround yourself with on a daily basis as far as people go. If you surround yourself with only good people and people who are like super strong and fit and like constantly doing stuff, you're going to feel like the weakest link of that circle and you're not going to feel too good about yourself and therefore maybe not feel as motivated as in comparison to, let's say, having a few people who are like level, like same sort of level as you, and then maybe one person who's a little bit below you, and that way you can help them, you have a bit of value and purpose to them, and you don't feel as low about yourself. And that's it, folks. For those of you who enjoy the content that I'm creating and talking about and the words I'm babbling on about, I do want to talk more about originality and creating unique content and unique work. For those of you who are interested about that, you guys can hit a subscribe button, watch this content, and hit a little bell, and you can get notified about it. But that's about it. Keep making some great stuff, guys. I'll see you all in another video.